What's up, Speak For Yourself listeners? It's your boy Shay Sharp, co-host of FS1's Undisputed. I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Club Shay Shay, where we always do something before two something. Each week, I sit down with a guest for a drink and conversation, and as host and proprietor of Club Shay Shay, I've welcomed in esteemed guests such as Snoop Dogg, Floyd Money Mayweather, LeVar Ball, Isaiah Thomas, just to mention a few. Whether I'm talking to an athlete, a musician, an actor, or a lifelong friend, Club Shay Shay is a place where people share inspiring and motivational stories about their journeys to prominence. The new episode drops every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Club Shay Shay now and make sure you never miss a new episode. Now, back to Speak For Yourself.
Welcome to Speak For Yourself. I'm LeVar Arrington along with my guys, Rick Bucher and Greg Jennings. We're in for Wally and Nacho. They're getting a much-needed rest and break, but let's go to our top story brought to you by Popeye's Chicken Sandwich. Deshaun Watson, you know what? He's sticking to that trade demand, and by all accounts, the Texans have zero interest in trading him. The latest report says if the Texans GM finally caves in on the Watson trade, it'll probably happen quickly, quietly, and suddenly. So, Greg, talk to me, man. Would it be a mistake for the Texans to cave on trading Deshaun?
Absolutely not. This is what they need to do. I get it. He's a transcendent talent. He's someone that you really don't want to part ways with, but it's appearing that you're going to have to. And so let me just take you down this road of teams that have had this type of an issue with the star player. The Raiders a few years ago with Khalil Mack. And all of us were like, what are they doing? What is Gruden doing getting rid of Khalil Mack? But they turned around and was able to get 2 first-round draft picks, and they're rebuilding, and they're doing a great job of that. And they've surfaced to be a decent team. And we would assume that they would be a playoff team hopefully next year. We'll see. And then you look at other teams that have done it. Like, it's not the first time the Seattle Seahawks the Jets, they acquired 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams. It has happened. So there's teams that have done this, and it's worked. The Jaguars a few years ago, Jalen Ramsey wanted out. He was disgruntled. He made it known that he didn't want to be a part of what the Jacksonville Jaguars were doing. They, in return, they were able to obtain 2 first-round draft picks from the Rams. The Rams with even Jared Goff this year. They got rid of their guy. They get Matthew Stafford. Lions get first-round draft picks out of that. So it's worked out when teams have had to part ways with their quote-unquote franchise player. I think the Houston Texans have to consider restacking what they don't have this year moving into the draft and acquiring some picks and some assets for a guy like Deshaun Watson, who will be highly sought after if you start answering those phone calls. And I just believe that with them wanting or needing to rebuild, there is no want. They are in a rebuild. Deshaun Watson does not want to be a part of that. He's been a part of a rebuild. He's been a part of what he felt was a retool. It has not worked out. He's disgruntled. Let the man go and acquire everything that you possibly can that will afford you opportunities to build a better product, a better team constructively for your fan base, for your organization that will set you up for future success. Because Deshaun Watson doesn't look like he's going to be a part of that.
There was also a report that the GMs also said, they would quietly trade Greg Jennings' shirt that he's wearing right now. Oh, okay. They said that they would cave and trade Greg Jennings' shirt as well. Listen, I don't think either one would be a mistake. I mean, I think that shirt is spicy personally. I'm with it. I'm all the way with it, G&J, just like your flavor of your cognac, G&J. Hey, look, Greg, Rick, I don't think it's a mistake at all. In fact, I think the sooner the better at this point. Times are changing. The dinosaur age of how things are handled and done is gone. It's dead and gone. It's going to be fossils. You're going to see them. They're going to be petrified in rocks, and we'll be able to look at them and study them. The old way of doing business is gone. The old way says You keep them. You don't seek a trade. You force that player to handle it the best way that they can handle it because they were given a contract, and within that contract parameter, you do what you're supposed to do as your job is spelled out in that contract and what you signed on the dotted line. But this is 2021, y'all. And when you look at what Deshaun Watson is doing and what is happening with all these other players out here and how they feel and their voice being heard, there's a lot that has happened since COVID. There's a lot that has gone on in this country, and that's playing out in football, in the National Football League. It's playing out in college. Look at the transfer portal. The way the rules of engagement have been in the past have totally changed. He doesn't want to play for y'all. He don't like y'all no more. Get over it. All right? If he don't want to be around y'all, get over that. Get rid of it. Get rid of the situation, it being the situation. Take care of what you need to take care of in terms of trying to, because first of all, you got to see if you can get a trade. You got to see if you can get the value for what it is that's going to be asked for Deshaun Watson. If I'm the Houston Texans, I go beyond the call to try and get him moved. And if he doesn't get moved because we couldn't come to an agreement of what the proper compensation would be, then I have the conversation with Deshaun Watson about, now you got to play for us because we can't move you, bro. Like, we tried to move you. We can't. But that has to be the approach. I would not have a problem with them caving in and trying to figure out the best steps forward to moving and allowing Deshaun Watson to move on. And if we can't move you on, then Rick, you got to accept the fact that we couldn't move you even though we tried. And we got to try to figure out how to make this work.
Yeah, LeVar, I think we also have to accept that if Greg's shirt is Deshaun Watson's, then your shirt is J.J. Watt's. It's solid.
Classy.
It's useful.
It's
but
white.
we're not going to be able to get the same thing for them. The value is not the same. I'm actually shocked that you said
cold-blooded, Rick,
that they should break NFL protocol and that they should go ahead and move Deshaun Watson, that they should give in, because that is not NFL protocol. It is, we're going to do what we're going to do, and you're going to like it. But I agree with you 100% that it is time to break NFL protocol in this situation. The mistake that they made was in not giving him a voice or involving him in the process of naming the head coach. It doesn't mean that you take who he says, but you make him feel like he's involved. When you did that, when you said, no, thank you, Deshaun, we'll handle this, and you decided we're going to let J.J. Watt walk, at that point, you should have started entertaining offers for Deshaun Watson, because you should have known that this was not working and that you were not in partnership with your best player. So ultimately, that was the mistake. So at this point, they can only compound it. This is what I don't understand. If they do it, they're going to do it suddenly, and they're going to do it quietly. Quietly, we all know that Deshaun Watson wants out. We all know that you're picking up the phone and listening. Why not entertain offers and make it known that you are entertaining offers and you're looking to get the most that you possibly can get? This is not entertaining, not moving him at this point would only compound the mistakes that they've already made.
I 100% agree. So a couple of things that I want to address. So we talk about J.J. Watt and them releasing J.J. Watt upon his request and honoring that. Well, this entire season, when we saw that image, that classic photo of J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson walking off the field for the last time together as Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson desperately wanted to be successful for JJ. It was not just for the organization. These were words that came out of his mouth. I feel bad because we weren't able to get it done for JJ. And I know that his time is coming where he may or may not be here. Well, we find out he's not there any longer. So what does that mean for Deshaun Watson? Well, the reason, or my why, that I was attached to, because Bill O'Brien, he had a really good relationship with Bill O'Brien. As much as we had things to say about Bill O'Brien and what he could and couldn't do, or what he did that was kind of detrimental, trading guys away, whatever. Deshaun and Bill O'Brien had a good relationship. Well, he's out. Now you excuse J.J. Watt. What else is he there for? Because he and the owner, they obviously didn't really have a great relationship. That was fractured. And so now you bring in a different coach, David Culley, who is expected to have an opportunity to rebuild this thing. Well, again, Deshaun Watson is not for rebuilding. I'll take you to Jalen Ramsey and his situation. And this is what you don't want to have. Like, guys, this way that Deshaun Watson has carried himself, he's always been a team-first guy. Everybody loved Deshaun Watson. Well, in the locker room, everyone loved Jalen Ramsey. But when he wanted out, he made certain that he was going to do whatever it takes. Now, he was about that smoke, meaning he was going to be disgruntled. He made it uncomfortable for guys even in the locker room. So there was some parting words. He said some things that were going to be definitely a distraction for not only the coaching staff and Doug Marrone, but also players. So it was like, we can't bring this guy back into the locker room. And I believe that that was a business decision for Jalen Ramsey and a tactic for him to get out. And it worked in his behalf, whereas I don't believe Deshaun Watson is willing to go that far. He's not going to start disrespecting the talent that's in the locker room. But what he is trying to get done, and Rick, you alluded to this, or I'm sorry, LeVar, you alluded to this. Let him know openly what you're trying to do. We're gonna try to accommodate you as well as us. But if we can't get what we're asking for back in compensation, then we're going to have to come to terms. But you have to be open with everything. You have to disclose all information to a guy like Deshaun Watson, in hopes that if it does not work out, if a trade does not happen, okay, you got to kind of work with us. We tried. It didn't work. We were open with you with what we were asking as far as compensation. You agreed to that, or you had some say. Now you got to work with us, Deshaun. That is the only way I feel like he would potentially come back and put on that Houston Texans uniform.
Greg, it works like this, right? In them 1980 photos that you used to take for your school yearbook, at some point, you got to change the background, right? Like Rick's. You know what I mean? Like, when you think about how dated the background is, you have to make better decisions moving forward, all right? You live and you learn. Now, we'll look back at those yearbooks and we'll be happy about looking at those pictures. Rick looked just like the dude that he was when he was in 8th, 9th grade. I mean, I'm buying that, right?
Not that far off,
what I'm not buying, Rick, what I'm not buying is not living and not learning. In 2021, if my Marley said, hey, Dad, what do you think about my yearbook picture with that background? I would say, who took those pictures and why am I paying for this yearbook? That's how I feel about the way the Texans are handling the situation with Deshaun Watson. You have got to come into 2021, people. Look at it from this perspective and this perspective only. You have ruined a relationship with your star franchise quarterback. You have. You take a moment with all the things that are being discussed and look at it at face value. You have deteriorated and ruined and poisoned the relationship with your quarterback. Live and learn from it. Don't make this mistake again, but don't make the mistake worse and keep taking them photos with more and more kids for the photos that are going to go into that yearbook, Rick. You got to change out the background and you got to come into 2021. That's the point.
I had no idea you were that attached to that shirt. Look, this is the problem that I have with GM Nick Caserio. And I hate to bag on a guy who inherited a situation as tough as the one that he has inherited with the Texans. But that said, this is what's always troubled me with some of the people that come out of the Bill Belichick tree and take on jobs, either as head coaches or as GMs, is that I don't know if you guys are Star Wars fans.
I am.
But the Darth Sidious role image that Bill Belichick portrays. Can you show me here?
Wow, it's close.
Darth Sidious, in case you don't get them mixed up, Darth Sidious is on the left.
Right.
Phil is on the right. They've come to believe that his secretive, imperial, that kind of evil approach to you're going to do it my way and I don't take any input, that somehow is part of the formula of success. When the reality is it's his ability to identify talent and to scheme to get the most out of that talent. We tolerate the Darth Sidious deal because of that other success. And I feel as if the way Caserio is approaching this, he's thinking like, Tom Brady wasn't involved in Bill's decisions and didn't have a seat at the table. Certainly, Deshaun, you can't have a seat at the table with me. The reality is, look, Nick, you are not Bill Belichick. You don't have that track record. And the Texans are not the New England Patriots. They're in a different position. And as LeVar mentioned, we're in a different world. The reality is that teams and organizations partnering with their best players, at least feeling like they're involved in the decision-making process, is simply part of the new reality, not just in the NBA, but in organizations and professional sports across the board. And that ultimately is the mistake that the Texans are making.
Well, time is winding up, and they're going to have to make a decision very quickly, and we're going to see how it plays out, if it's quiet or if it's loud. We'll see it, and we'll talk about it. Coming up next, did J.J. Watt make the right move picking the Cardinals? We'll discuss that next here on Speak For Yourself. What's up, Popeye?
Hey, Speak For Yourself listeners. I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com. Reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports, plus a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, are just one click away. For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. So download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com.
Welcome back. J.J. Watt has a new home in Arizona, agreeing to a 2-year deal for a reported $31 million with $23 million guaranteed. But the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year reportedly was offered more money by the Browns and Colts. Watt flew to Arizona yesterday and posted a pic with Cardinals owner Michael Bidwell, adding, pretty convenient, and the owner is also a pilot. See you soon, Cardinals. So, LeVar, are the Cardinals the right landing spot for J.J. Watt?
Yes, they're the right landing spot. And first and foremost, I mean, let's be clear. He wasn't flying that plane. He can fly planes. There's something to be said about that. You dig what I'm saying? You saw what I did there? He was hanging out with his new friend, J.J. Watt. And listen, when you have an owner that feels the way, didn't we just come out of a segment where we're talking about how ownership and relationships between players is so important and imperative? You don't think Deshaun Watson sitting somewhere and saw that post come up with him standing there with the homie talking about my guy is a pilot? Like, can I have that too? Can I have that type of relationship too, where I can post something not talking about it's all about loyalty, people? Nah, it's about, hey, it's always cool when the person that you're working with and working for can fly a plane, but he ain't flying that plane.
It's all about the G4.
He just owns that plane. So listen, this is why it's a great relationship and a great decision on J.J. Watt's part. Let's see. Let's run it down. He's one of the all-time greatest players in the history of the game. Won the Defensive Player of the Year award 3 times. Wow. He's achieved at such a high level that could you really, after we had the disappointing conversation yesterday of, well, he didn't choose a team that we felt would win the Super Bowl. We were looking for him to choose another team, maybe the team that, as you mentioned before, Greg Jennings, based upon our thought process of who we thought was closest to winning a Super Bowl next year, should be the team that he chose. But this dude is J.J. Watt. He's J.J. Watt, and he's at the end of his career. It's been an illustrious career. Could he really make a bad decision? If you really stop and take a moment and say, if the Arizona Cardinals win 4 games next year, 5 games next year, would you really have problems with J.J. Watt and him going to Arizona? No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. And if you do, you're a hater, and you're hating bad. Because you know why? Because J.J. Watt is not supposed to be the catalyst for the Arizona Cardinals winning a Super Bowl. J.J. Watt is merely a part, merely a piece. So there could not be a bad decision in terms of what J.J. Watt chose to do, Rick. I mean, that's just what I feel. That's what I think. I don't know.
Tell him.
It's what he feels, Rick. However, for me, in terms of winning a championship, no, this was not the correct landing spot. But in LeVar's defense, in terms of being able to showcase his talent and what he's been able to do over the course of his career, it makes sense.
It makes sense.
I want to read you guys something so I asked J.J. Watt last year. Obviously, it was a disappointing season. He was having a pretty decent season, not up to his standards, but he was standing out, the only standout player on that Houston Texans defense. And I asked him, I said, what are you looking for moving forward? Like in a defense, in a team? And he said, I want to be a part of a defense where they're flying around and having fun.
Arizona.
And I read this. I found this interesting as I'm reading this question today, and it makes sense. Like, yes, part of me wanted to see J.J. Watt in a situation where he could win, because I felt like, man, he's done this league as a great service. He's been a great ambassador. He's done it the right way. You want guys like himself and Larry Fitzgerald to get that opportunity to hoist that Lombardi trophy. Well, if they can't, if they feel like, you know what, I have more to give, I can offer more, why not put myself in a situation where I can also be competitive as a team, maybe not win a championship, but we can be darn competitive, but definitely put myself back in a situation where I'm having fun, where I'm with a supporting cast that will showcase my abilities as well as they used to be showcased. I think that was the driving force, along with the money, which I understand, of why J.J. Watt chose this situation. And I think when you look at defensive coordinators and you look at Vance Joseph and what he's been able to do with that defense, and Budda Baker and Simmons and Chandler Jones when healthy, and so many other moving parts, Patrick Peterson, all these names, it makes sense why J.J. Watt would go to a team like this, that he can have kind of an impact on a different level, a different scale, where he's not viewed as the guy. I am a complimentary guy, but I'm going to darn sure play like I am the guy, and I'm going to have an opportunity to where I can get the next best matchup, not your offensive line is sliding to me. You better look out for Chandler Jones. And I think he's in the stage in his career where he thought about those things. So is this a great landing spot for him? It is. But is it a place where he can win a Super Bowl? I do not believe so.
So the question is it the right landing spot for J.J. Watt? Not is it a sufficient landing spot for J.J. Watt? Is there a way to make a case why it's an okay spot? Is it the right landing spot for J.J. Watt? And we're acting as if, no, not we, you guys are acting as if Chandler Jones is the only pass rusher he could have possibly been paired with. And yet we heard that Tennessee was not only interested, but offering equal money. So the fact that he could pair with Jadeveon Clowney again and have a huge influence on improving an area that Tennessee desperately needs help in would have done something for them. Going to Cleveland and pairing with Myles Garrett. Going to Green Bay and pairing with Zadarius Smith. going to KC and pairing with Frank Clark and Chris Jones. Like, there were enough other places that he could go and he could have an impact without necessarily being the man. And once, look, you guys heard it. When this first broke and we were asked, were we surprised? I said, no, because of the money. But if you're telling me the money was equal in some other places where he could have an impact on a team that is going someplace like the Titans. I mean, imagine you go to the Titans. You're playing for a defensive coach like Mike Vrabel. However comparison you make between how Arizona flew around and how Tennessee flew around, you don't think that when you add a J.J. Watt, that's not going to change their defensive scheme and they're going to potentially be more aggressive? And you get to play the Texans twice a year. And you get to be with a team that right now you know is a playoff caliber team. We can't say that about the Arizona Cardinals. And you could have had the money on top of it. I'm still trying to figure out, based on everything that J.J. Watt has said, why he would pick the Cardinals as the place ultimately to go. There were other places that were more right than Arizona.
This is what I'll say to that. It's one thing to leave the organization in the city that truly admires and loves you. It's not about going to an interdivisional opponent and trying to whoop up on the Texans. I think that that's a misstep, first and foremost. Secondly,
because why?
Well, because I think that he has a great rapport, and it would be a personal decision to not want to go up against a team that you've built that type of relationship with. He could have even been well thought out enough to say, I don't even want to play in the AFC, because the Bills were reportedly the second choice. And that would have been an amazing decision for J.J. Watt to go play for the Buffalo Bills, as they are very, very dangerously close to being that Super Bowl contending team. So I'm looking at this after the initial shock of, okay, I thought there were better teams closer to winning Super Bowls out there than this Arizona Cardinals team. But there had to be something that motivated, that touched J.J. Watt in a way where we have to throw out the information that we're using to make this point. There has to be a personal side of this. I can't even imagine what those dudes have been going through emotionally and mentally, along with the physical rigors of what they have to do being a football player at Houston right now. It's all in front of us. You got to get up out of there. So to me, something appealed to J.J. Watt and made him feel confident and comfortable about making this decision. It was not about just winning a Super Bowl. It probably was something that would be personal, near and dear to a connection point with him, the owner of the team, a couple of the players, whatever, so on and so forth. But Greg, I look at the elements of why J.J. Watt went to Arizona. I don't think it's the money, even though they paid him a lot of money. I don't think that it's necessary. No, I don't think it's because he had other offers with the same type of money. So I don't think that it's the money per se. And I don't think it's necessarily about how close they are to winning that Super Bowl. I really thought it was about the humanistic side of what
the owner gave him a ride on his plane. That's it?
Sometimes that matters, man. I came from a turbulent situation. Sometimes having peace of mind and being in a place where the environment is not toxic means more to your career and what you want to do moving forward than any other factors involved.
Okay, when you mention that, you talk about making it personal, there had to be something more. What comes to mind for me is, as an older player, you start thinking about retirement. Arizona is a place where a lot of people migrate and they transport to retire. Mm-hmm. And so think about this, Rick. No, think about this. If he pairs with his brother in Pittsburgh, he's outside in the cold.
Cold.
He goes to Cleveland. He's outside in the cold. He goes to Green Bay. It's cold. He's outside in the cold.
Come on, talk to him, Greg.
He goes to Tennessee.
Cold.
He's outside in the cold. He goes to Kansas City. Cold. He's outside in the cold. I understand all of these things, but as an older player, you start to think about your physical health. Your comfort level, it matters to guys. He's in a dome. He's in a situation where he's thinking about just himself and what he can do and what he can provide, not only for the team, but for himself as well. So he was in a dome in Houston. That was comfort. There was a lot of comfort there for him. And so I think those types of things played a huge role in his decision in making Arizona the choice. If the money was a little similar and he could have played with another pass rush, well, what do they have to offer that others don't? The warm weather.
Well, I'll say this.
A place where I can retire.
I'll say this. Due to your lack of strong signal and connection, Greg, what'd you guys say? Take us to break because Greg messed up. Greg went out. Coming up, should Dak feel disrespected like I just felt disrespected by Greg Jennings, doing what he just did with his Wi-Fi? We're going to find out if the Cowboys offer is respectful or not. You're listening and watching. Speak for yourself.
Hey, Speak for Yourself listeners. It's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People's Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness. Or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we could all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you. Now, back to Speak for Yourself.
Welcome back. The Cowboys have until March 9th to decide if they'll tag Dak Prescott again. Jane Slater reports Dak is, quote, looking to be paid right behind Patrick Mahomes, and added, it's about respect. The Cowboys' top offer to Dak was reportedly $35 million per year, while Mahomes is the NFL's highest paid player at $45 million per year. So, LeVar, should Dak feel disrespected by the Cowboys?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Why? What did you just say, Rick? They offered him reportedly
$35 million offer.
Now that's interesting.
$45 million is what Mahomes makes.
That's
right behind Patrick Mahomes.
Well, here's why I say this is disrespectful. They offered him $35 million last year. Reportedly, he gets injured. So I know the value in the market goes up, but did an injured Dak Prescott's value in the market go up? No, it did not, because he didn't play enough football for him to raise the value of who he is as a player. So you still have to lean on that built up equity as a player that Dak has proven on the field. Now, $35 million. You're about ready to give him the franchise tag, the second consecutive franchise tag. $37.7 million. That's $2 million more than what you've offered him as a long-term average of the money that you're going to make yearly. So you're really okay with giving him a franchise tag that's going to pay him somewhere in between the middle of where you offered and what he wants, but you're not willing to give him the entirety of giving him a long-term deal. At least say, we'll give you $37.7 like the salary, the franchise tag would call for. You do not want to pay him the figure that he wants. Let it be made known. Why? Because the more you do this, the more people like us have to come on television and try to justify why the Dallas Cowboys will not make that true commitment to what they say is their guy, their franchise QB, their guy that's going to take them to the Super Bowl, our win-now quarterback, but you won't pay him win-now money. You won't pay him go to the Super Bowl money. You won't pay him that this is our guy money. So just say that you don't want to do that, because the longer you allow these things to kind of play out the way that they are, and you look at silly things like, oh, we'll give you the franchise tag consecutively, and that franchise tag is more than what we offered you, but we won't offer you a real deal. That's disrespect. And in some ways, you got to feel like it diminishes and it devalues how we're looking at what Dak Prescott brings to the table as a quarterback.
I'm with you. He's definitely being disrespected. And for me, when I hear that word disrespect, it carries a lot of weight. And it allows me, I'm a very self-reflecting individual. And so when I hear disrespect, the first thing that comes to mind is there's either something that I have done or I haven't done that warrants you to treat me in such a way. And when I look at Dak Prescott in this situation, I don't see that. He has done everything that they have asked, that our expectations were from the media, that we wanted to see, that everybody wanted to see. Can he carry this team? You give him Amari Cooper. Okay, his play got better. It improved. You continue to add pieces around him, and his play elevates. You say he's not accurate. His accuracy jumps. He becomes even more of a leader and more of an alpha on the football field. He's doing everything with the exception of creating wins to where they get to the postseason. And the last time that I checked, when I'm negotiating my contract, or I was negotiating my contract, I didn't talk about the team's overall success. It was based on my statistical numbers and what I was doing. And that sounds selfish, but that's exactly what the team is going to do when they're looking at you. Well, how do you compare to your counterparts? Well, when you look statistically, he compares very well. He's won games. It hasn't been playoff worthy. But when I look at Dak Prescott, he's done everything. He's even rehabbing, from what I'm reading, with the Dallas Cowboys organization. He's trying everything within his power to show this team that I am all in, but yet you can't be all in on me. Another thing, he has a football field in his backyard. He does things the right way. This is a guy that is constantly trying to improve on his game whenever, wherever he possibly can. So what more do the Dallas Cowboys need to see out of Dak Prescott? So, yes, he is being disrespected, because when I look at, like I said, the word disrespect, it's either something you have done or haven't done to warrant what they're going to do. And with Dak Prescott, what is it that he is not doing? What is it that he is unwilling to do? He's done everything, and he's been willing to do any and everything with the exception of agreeing to your terms on a deal. So that's it. That's it. Outside of that, his play, it's been great. It hasn't equated to wins, but you can't solely put that on the shoulder of Dak Prescott. You have to then, as a general manager, Jerry Jones, and as a head coach, Mike McCarthy, and whoever there before, you have to put some of that ownership on them.
The main thing is the main thing, and the main thing is the money. Oh. That's where it comes down to. And it's not, of course, yes, he's being disrespected, but it's not the amount of money that he's being offered, because it's commensurate with what Dak Prescott is worth as a quarterback. He has not proved that he's Russell Wilson. He hasn't proved that he's Patrick Mahomes. The disrespect is that the Cowboys keep talking about him as if they view him as Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes, and yet they're not willing to pay him. So they're talking out of both sides of their mouths, and that to me is the disrespectful part here. You can't say Dak is our guy, we believe in Dak, he's a franchise quarterback, and then you're not willing to pay him franchise money. Now, I understand that the distinction here, from what I understand, is that Jerry is expecting new TV money to come in, and he wants to sign him to a long-term deal that bleeds into the new TV money, so that at the back end of Dak's contract, if they're not certain how much they're paying him in the front, when they get to the back end, the percentage that it's going to take of the salary cap, the Cowboys are going to be in a very sweet place. Well, Dak and his agent know that, so they're like, no. We want a shorter deal, so that when the TV money comes in, we can re-up and get a bigger deal. That to me, I think, is some of the timing here and the battle over the length of the contract. But that said, again, if he's your guy, if he's the Cowboys guy, then you figure it out and you pay him more up front and you get it done, as opposed to treating him like the Washington football team treated Kirk Cousins. And when it comes to respect, anything that the Washington football team did to Kirk Cousins was not respectful anyway, anyhow. And if that's relative to how Dak, whatever Dak is or he isn't, he doesn't deserve to be treated like Kirk Cousins by the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, listen, you're recovering from a serious leg injury. To get that injury, and that's the reason, Greg, you and I both know this, that is the one reason why nobody wants to take a franchise tag. I can get hurt. It might look like a lot of money, people, and it is, but in comparison to what it could be, if you have the stability of having the commitment that you're giving to your team and your team giving you that same commitment, that's what makes things work. So I think this is going to be something that we got to pay attention to and see how it's going to play out. But we're going to leave the gridiron and we're going to jump on that hardwood. You know, Greg knows a little bit about that. Rick Bucher, not so much. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Brooklyn Nets. All right. Can they make the NBA Finals? We're going to discuss that, and it's going to be real intense here on Speak for Yourself. Welcome back to the show. The Nets, they hadn't won a regular season game in San Antonio since 2002. The same season they played the Spurs in the finals, but Brooklyn changed that last night with an overtime win behind James Harden's impressive 30-point triple-double. The Nets are red hot, winning 9 of their last 10. We got to have this conversation. We got our man Chris Broussard joining us in the building now, but we're going to start with you, Rick. Do you see this red-hot Nets team winning the NBA Finals, which would be a feat that hasn't happened, well, getting there at least, since 2003?
No, I don't expect it. Could they? Yes, they very well could. But do I think that they're the odds-on favorite? Would I be shocked if they didn't? No, because I simply look at the East as being wide open. I still need to see, can their small ball style beat the Philadelphia 76ers in the postseason? How much better are the Milwaukee Bucks as a playoff team this year with Drew Holiday and having shortened their regular season rotation? And perhaps most important, with Brooklyn, for all of the success that they've had, and I know they've been playing without Kevin Durant, they're still 22nd in defensive rating. And so the question is, can you win? Can you win consistently in the postseason if your defense isn't better than that? We've seen games where they've gotten it together and they've played solid defense at the end of games to win. But ultimately, teams don't have the ability to headhunt and to matchup hunt the way they do in the postseason. And I look at the personnel that they have that makes them so offensively potent. And no, there's always going to be a Joe Harris on the floor. There's going to be a Kyrie Irving on the floor. There's going to be a James Harden on the floor. Like, teams are going to have the ability to pick who they want to attack and do it consistently in the postseason in a way that's simply not possible in the regular season. And at the other end, defensively, you can kind of make the ball end up in the hands that you want it to end up in. You can get the ball and leave Jeff Green wide open, or Bruce Brown, or whoever you decide is going to be the weak link. So I can't take their success in the regular season and translate that immediately. Having never seen this group together in the postseason, immediately translate to they're going to do the exact same thing they're doing now in the postseason.
I can. And to answer your question about defense, Rick, yes, they can. 22nd? If they're the 22nd best defensive team in the league with this offense, they're winning the East. Look, there are only 2 things that will stop them from winning the East. Either an injury to Kevin Durant or James Harden, or an implosion. And maybe it's Kyrie, but there's some type of implosion within that locker room or that unit where they just stop playing together. But outside of that, I mean, Rick, they're 11-3 against the West. They're 15-5 against teams 500 or better. Those both are the best in the league. And most of that's without their best player. And you know this, Rick. There is not a superstar in the NBA that is better fit to just be dropped into a lineup and fit seamlessly. Now, obviously, there's always adjustments when you bring in a 30-point scorer. But Kevin Durant won't over-dribble. He won't take too many shots. He'll get his 25 to 30 points on 16 to 20 shots. So he's going to fit in well whenever he gets back. Defensively, yes, they're not going to be the bad boy Pistons. But guess what? They don't have to be. Today's NBA isn't all about defense anymore either. You know that. The floor is so spread out.
Right now.
You can't hand check. You can't be great defensively. They just have to be adequate and capable of getting a stop when necessary. So, and with that offense, 3 guys that can all create their own shots, they can get an open look just about every time down the floor. And you notice, Rick, role players, when they're open,
there you go,
can make shots.
There you go.
We see Bruce Brown putting up 20-something points. And last night, Nicholas Claxton giving you a career night. Because they're getting so many open looks because of the attention that the superstars draw.
Chris,
they're the team
regular
in the East,
season.
the team
We've seen how many role players have we seen? How many times has LeBron James made the right basketball play to someone as accomplished as a Kyle Korver to hit a big shot in the postseason, and it doesn't go down? Mo Williams. I could name the number of role players. Harrison Barnes. The number of role players
they had
who in the postseason were wide open, and with the pressure of the postseason on them, could not come through because it's different than the regular season. I'm not gonna go there with that. But you said something that I find very interesting. You made it almost sound like Kyrie Irving is dispensable. If it's Harden and it's KD, that's enough for these guys to still be on the wagon and ending up in the NBA Finals. I don't want to misconstrue that. So is that what you're saying, that he is the third least important member of this trio, and that if injury happened to him, you said if Harden or KD got hurt, you didn't say Kyrie. So is he disposable when it comes to this trio?
He's the third best player. KD's the best, obviously, and Harden's the second best, and chasing real close on KD. Kyrie's the third best player. And I think, look, if they had Harden and Kyrie and no Kevin Durant, then I would be more with you. They could win the East, but they wouldn't be my pick. If they have Harden and KD, they're still my pick. And if they have KD and Kyrie, they're still my pick, but it's closer. So, yeah, I think Rick Harden is playing like he could be the MVP of the league. Some people are going to hold Houston the way he left, the way he quit on them for 5 or 6 games. Some will hold that against him. But James Harden, I think, is playing better than anyone on the planet. Maybe Luka over the last month, who's really stepped it up. But Harden is playing tremendous basketball. And his unselfishness, Rick, the fact that he would step in, take 8 to 10 fewer shots than he was getting in Houston, play point guard, and that unselfishness has been contagious throughout that team. And so offensively, everyone is making the extra pass, the role players are getting touches. They're happy as larks. They're getting plenty of touches. So now on the other end, they're hustling. They are getting after it. And I got to credit Kyrie and Harden as well. They're putting forth effort defensively. They're not great defenders. But, yeah, I think Kyrie is their third best player.
So, but that's my problem, is that we're not the regular season, but postseason, when you're playing against the best of the best, Kyrie Irving and Harden, it can't just be effort. You have to be a good defender. You have to be able to defend your position. And I just have a hard time seeing Kyrie and Joe Harris and James Harden all defending at a high enough level for them to get there. And to your point, yes, defense has been horrible in the regular season, and maybe that will continue into the postseason. But generally, when you're able to game plan, you can force the ball to certain places. And the first thing I'm going to do in my game plan is I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to let Kyrie Irving be the decision maker, because we've seen that. We saw it against San Antonio, where we've seen it multiple times this year. When you put it in Kyrie's hands, Kyrie's going to go get his. And it's not always the best shot or the best decision. And so if I can load up and make it a Kyrie show, that's one more way of trying to minimize the impact of this offense, because I know when I have them on defense that I'm going to be able to score.
This offense has been minimal all year long because they haven't all played together for an extended amount of time. But yet they're still first in points per game. Yet they're still first in field goal percentage, which is very important. They're second in three-point percentage. Very important. Why? Because when I think about what we talk about, what needs to happen to be able to get to that final, especially in the East, I think it's more so about the other teams than it is about Brooklyn. We know what we're going to get out of Kevin Durant if he's healthy. We know what we're going to get out of Kyrie Irving if he's healthy. Same with James Harden. I don't care what order you put them in, from most important to least important, because they're going to be more important than the first, second, and third options of any other team that they're going to play against, if you ask me my humble estimation on it. I don't trust the 76ers because they haven't given us reason to trust them once you get into those critical games that you're speaking of those role players making those shots in big moments in the playoffs, Rick. When I look at the 76ers, they have to show me that they can use that grit, or find that grit, that intestinal fortitude necessary to be able to push through to that next level. I think the same thing exists for the Boston Celtics. Now, we could throw some other teams out there. Is Giannis and those guys going to be able to bring a little bit more maturity and a little bit more, more than a one-dimensional type of game to challenge? Maybe so, but I don't see a team in the East that can stand up to the offensive onslaught that will come their way if all three of these guys are on the court and all healthy. It just doesn't add up. So I would say it's more so about what these other teams aren't bringing to the table as to the reason why we will see them in the finals, versus what it is that we're focusing in on technically and specifically as it applies to the Brooklyn Nets. And
that's a fair
you can
point,
take
LeVar,
that.
because Milwaukee has the same problem they've had the last few years. Giannis is not a closer. And Rick, to your point, in the playoffs, that's going to become more and more evident, just like it has the past 2 years. Then you look at Philadelphia. Philadelphia does have a formula, or potentially has a formula, that could give Brooklyn trouble. Joel Embiid and even Ben Simmons inside. You know this, Rick. Now, great, Embiid's inside on the block more than ever this year, but still, he still probably spends 65% of his time out on the perimeter. If he was going to be on the block and punish the Nets' small lineup, then I'd go. But he's not. He's going to give them 30, but a lot of it's going to come from the perimeter, and he's not going to really punish them for being small the way he could. If I'm Philly, I'd probably want to slow down the game. Have Simmons and Embiid both inside at different times and kill the Nets inside and slow the game down, because I think you're going to have trouble outscoring them. And Philly's got a good perimeter defense, and they shoot the three well. So they have a formula, but will they play it? And even if they do, I think the Brooklyn Nets are still better.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out. This all gets interesting, and I love hearing you guys debate. I was a fly on the wall on this segment because it was important to let y'all do y'all's thing. Speaking of doing your thing, Steph Curry has done his thing so much, and coming up next, we're going to talk about, well, is he the most influential basketball player of the last 30 years? That goes back to 1991, y'all. We'll answer that next on Speak For You. Next week, the Big East tournament tips off at Madison Square Garden. Will Villanova take the crown again? Find out next week on Fox, FS1, and the Fox Sports app. All right, y'all. That's going to be fun. Let's head back to the NBA. Steph Curry He's a 3-time NBA champ and a 2-time MVP. But is he influential? Shaquille O'Neal thinks so. He was on the Dan Patrick Show yesterday, and Shaq agreed that Steph is the most influential basketball player of the last 30 years. So, Rick, do you agree?
No. Look, Steph is extraordinary. Steph is a magician. What he has done and what he has introduced to the league is something that we haven't seen before. But the Warriors are the most influential. It doesn't have to do with Steph Curry. In fact, I could make the case that he's not even the most influential player on the Warriors. That would be Draymond Green, because once he succeeded David Lee as their power forward, they changed the way they played. And for all that Steph Curry did in terms of extending range and making 30-footers routine and having everybody start to play that way, fact of the matter is, Steve Kerr and the Warriors allowed that to happen. It's not as if he was the first player who was capable of doing that. It was more that the Warriors changed the way everybody played the game. And Draymond Green had as much influence on that as anything playing point forward. It allowed them to change up the way they played. It allowed them to run. For the first time, you had a guy who could rebound and start the break, and it allowed the Warriors to play the way they did at both ends of the floor. So this is not shade being thrown at Steph Curry. All you Steph stands out there who think I don't give him his just due, love everything about the man, both on and off the court. But if we're talking about most influential on the game of basketball, the Warriors had a huge influence in changing the whole small ball dynamic. Not that there wasn't small ball before. There was. Phoenix Suns, Don Nelson in an earlier iteration. But the way they used Draymond Green and the way they played with him at the top as the point forward, that was something new and different. And it caught everybody by surprise. And now, as a result, everybody's changed their rosters. They all have a Draymond Green type or a player who can defend a Draymond Green type. The entire league, for the most part, has gone small and is playing through point forwards like LeBron James, like Paul George, like Kawhi Leonard. And that is the biggest impact that happened as a result of the Warriors. Not that Steph Curry has done what he's done as far as range.
Oh, Rick, I feel for you when things open up in the Bay Area and you go outside, because they are going to give it to you.
Wait.
I mean, what? I'm with you that Steph is not the most influential player in the last 30 years, but to say Draymond, with all due respect for what he's contributed, come on. Steph is the guy on that team who's been the most influential. He's changed the game of basketball. Like, now we see players shooting from the logo, shooting from the hash, at all levels. I mean, Steph Curry has changed the game of basketball like very few people ever have. I do have Michael Jordan and LeBron James ahead of Steph. Michael Jordan, look, obviously, the way people were put, Kobe Bryant, Vince Carter, all those guys, there were for 2 decades, there was an overemphasis on hyper athleticism and isolation play, all because of Michael Jordan. Even today, I mean, I think Dan Patrick and Shaq were talking a little bit off the court as well. So today, people that didn't even see Jordan play with the Wizards, let alone with the Bulls, are standing in line to buy his sneakers for $300 and $400. So their TV ratings were through the roof with Jordan. So Jordan, number one, and then LeBron, a few ways. One, player empowerment, which I don't think we'd have a Brooklyn Nets with James Harden on them if it weren't for LeBron. I don't think Kevin Durant would have ever even fathomed going to Golden State if LeBron hadn't gone to Miami. So Kawhi and Paul George teaming up. And we see it even in the NFL now with these quarterbacks wanting to have their say. So player empowerment, LeBron James. More than a vote, he likely played a role in the election of our last president. So that's huge. And then on the court, Rick, I would say LeBron James made the high-scoring point forward a thing. So you had Scottie Pippen and a Paul Pressey before LeBron, but they weren't really big scorers. LeBron was that first kind of point forward who also gave you about 30 points and everything ran through him. You can argue whether that's good or not, but he created the offense for everyone. And now you got Kawhi and Paul George kind of playing that way with the Clippers, and even before with their other teams. You got a Giannis to some degree playing like that. Luka plays like that. James Harden even plays like that. So I think LeBron I would put ahead of Steph too. But after Jordan and LeBron, I got to give it to Steph.
Well, look, no. I'm making the case because what you're saying about the way that LeBron plays as a point forward, Draymond Green and the Warriors started that to the degree that it is done. I mean, he wasn't now LeBron with the Lakers is listed as a point guard, even though we know that he's still a forward in just about every other aspect. Look, the whole game has become versatile. Michael Jordan, for me, is the most influential. He is first of all, he opened up China. He made the NBA global in a way that it had not been before. He's also the first former player to be a majority owner of an NBA team. And to your point, when it comes to the brand recognition, when it comes to having an apparel line that has lived well beyond his playing days, no one has done it like Michael Jordan. And on the court, I would say it's the same thing, because prior to Michael Jordan, you didn't build a championship team through a shooting guard, and you certainly didn't do it with a shooting guard who was posting up in the mid-post. He had to change his body and the way he played in order to transform that. I would make the case that LeBron benefits from how the game has changed, that his size and his speed and the lack of physicality has now made, it's a combination, has the skills at his size that now makes him a constant mismatch at the point guard position. But the fact that the point guard position has now become dominant, both as scorer and playmaker, I think LeBron has taken full advantage of that, but I don't think that he initiated that.
I find it amazing at all the facts and information that you find intelligent, articulate young men have made during this segment. But you failed to mention a few things. One, no matter where you go in the world, if you see, we know who it is, right? If you see that hand out holding that ball, you know who it is. You don't even have to say his name. That is by far easily most influential. I don't even have to recognize you by name. I recognize you by a logo. Whoa. Okay. Now, let's move to number 2. How did y'all miss Magic Johnson? Magic Johnson is so influential. It is crazy. And we're talking about majority owner of a franchise, and he's this and he's that. Well, what is Magic? I mean, come on.
Minority owner. But
Okay.
Here's the thing. LeVar, you make a fair point. Magic shouldn't be forgotten in the conversation. But I think we always look at it as the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird effect.
Okay.
Those guys, when they came in,
we said 30
were a combo
years.
package
But
that transformed the NBA.
We said 30 years. So that goes back to
Well,
1991.
Magic barely makes that cut, LeVar.
He does.
What's
That's
that?
true.
He retired in what, 91, 92?
It
91?
goes, he left, his last years were in 91, 92. 30 years, you go back, that's 1991.
You're sneaking him in the back door, LeVar.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
Your influence doesn't stop because your career is ending. He
That
was
means we have
still
to
in the
include his
league.
coaching career.
He was still
down.
in the league. All right, so let's
you
stop.
put him second to Jordan, ahead of LeBron and Steph. in influence.
Honestly speaking, I think he needs to be in the conversation. I think Shaquille O'Neal and LeBron James are in the conversation for second and third. But you choose between those three: Magic Johnson, LeBron James, and who did I say? Who was the third one again? Oh, and Kobe
Shaq.
Bryant.
I want to hear your argument for Shaq.
I
want to hear your argument for Shaq.
The reason why I believe Shaq is one of the most influential players of all time is the same reason why I'm going to make the argument for Steph Curry of what he is the most of all time, is because you could never be Shaq. Shaq is influential because he is larger than life, literally In real life, Shaq is larger than life. And that's why he does all them commercials. And that's why he's a part of all these different things, because he's so well-spoken and he's so relatable that you just love Shaquille O'Neal. And that is not matched. I don't think that love affair of Shaquille O'Neal is matched by any other player, including Michael Jordan. What I will say Steph Curry is, and this is what Shaq and what Dan Patrick and those guys should have said, is the most relatable, right? Steph Curry is the most relatable player of all time. You know why? He's 6'3". He went to Davidson College, right? So fair. When you look at Steph Curry, I can look at him and I can say, if I don't get to 6'3", 6'1", 6'2", I might be able to make it work at 6'1", 6'2". I'll be okay with that. I might even think that I got a chance at 6 foot. Globally speaking, when Steph Curry walks into a room, he ain't yoked up. He ain't coming up in that joint looking like muscle man, right? He comes in, he looks normal, right? He looks like a guy that I say he's like a real life Spider-Man, right? That's Peter Parker. He can walk through your school if he pulled his hat down and put a hoodie on, and you wouldn't even know Steph Curry was walking around going to class in your school. And that makes him just one of the most appealing athletes, because when we see athletes, you know what I get all the time, fellas? I know y'all get this too when y'all go out. I go out there, you must play football. You must have played a sport. What sport did you play? Like, can I be a normal person? Can I be okay with I'm just a normal guy. Well, you know who gets that every single day? Steph Curry gets that every single day. So while he's not the most influential, let's not take away from his brilliance as a person and as an athlete. He is by far the most relatable player in maybe in the history of any sport across all categories.
Allen Iverson, give him a run for that.
Oh, yes, he would. But everybody can't relate to AI. They ain't about that life.
And LeVar, first of all, you're huge, all right? You're sitting over there looking like Verb. Remember the old cartoon Verb character?
Of course.
So I know why people ask you if you play football.
Well, I'm overweight right now.
Steph, what Steph has done is he's not the only one. I put James Harden in this category, but he's brought the importance of skills back to the game. Because as I said, after Michael Jordan, everybody just thought it was about athleticism. You got to be able to jump through the gym. You got to be so fast and so quick and all that. And even LeBron, you got to be so strong. Steph brought it back to, you know what? If you have a great handle and you can shoot the rock and you meet a baseline degree of athleticism, you can really be a great player in the NBA. Again, same with James Harden. And old school guys, that's how it was. Magic wasn't the most athletic. Bird wasn't the most athletic. Oscar, wasn't a speed, burner. But they had skills. And so I think Steph's helped bring that impact back to the game, too.
Great discussion. We'll continue those discussions coming up. There's drama in Seattle. But has Pete Carroll's reputation taken a hit? We'll discuss that next. You're watching Speak for Yourself.
Welcome back. Pete Carroll could be at the center of Russell Wilson's frustration with the Seahawks. Reports say Russ believes Carroll, quote, answers to no one and is calling the shots in Seattle. Wilson and Carroll have a Super Bowl win together. They've also lost 4 of their last 5 playoff games. So, LeVar, I have to ask, has Pete Carroll's reputation taken a big hit?
I think it has. I think it has no choice but to take a big hit. When you talk about someone as credible and has been there for as long as Russell Wilson has been, and then the way that it's been presented to the media for consumption, right, Greg? Like when you think about how you put that slight little spin on it, because when you say something like that, it's like how you say it. It's like, well, Pete Carroll is a dope coach and he doesn't have to really answer to anybody. Or do you say Pete Carroll is a dope coach, but he don't have to answer to anybody, right? It's like, whoa, you know what I mean? It can change the whole way we look and feel about the entirety of the conversation. So when I look at how it's been presented, And the fact that Russ is saying, well, I don't want to leave, but I need things to be different or I got to go. And that catalyst is the coach. So now you've put a big, shiny spotlight on a target that's sitting right on Pete Carroll. And yes, depending on how Pete Carroll handles this, and even before what he does to handle it, his reputation still comes under scrutiny and comes under fire. It takes a hit because you're going to have people that feel a certain type of way about Russell Wilson, and that's all that matters. And those people will talk to other people, and we know how the trickle-down effect works. So, yes, I think it does have an impact on his reputation.
I don't think Pete Carroll's reputation has taken a hit yet. And I emphasize yet because there's potential that it could take a hit depending on how this all plays out with Russell Wilson. And the reason why I say that, if they mishandle this, meaning they let Russell Wilson walk and they acquire whatever they acquire for Russell Wilson and they move forward and they're not successful, then I believe it's like, well, why would you have ever let Russell Wilson go? It takes a hit. But in Pete Carroll's defense, like, he is a good coach. His way has worked. He has had some great personnel around him, some great talent around him. You think about him with the Seattle team, the Bobby Wagners of the world, the Richard Shermans, all these players, the Marshawn Lynches, the Russell Wilsons, all these guys that he's had has attributed to his success as a coach. Even when you go to USC, when he had Matt Leinart, Troy Polamalu, and Reggie Bush and all these guys, like, he had so many pieces around him that accredited to his success. And you even go back to New England. He was able to coach Curtis Martin, Hall of Famer, Ty Law, Hall of Famer, and so many others. Like, let's not make it seem like Pete Carroll hasn't found a way to be successful without doing it his way. Like, he can do it his way and be successful. He's proven that. So I think we have to pause on saying it's taken a hit because he's still proven to be effective with Russell Wilson right now. And we don't know if he will ever have an opportunity to coach without Russell Wilson in the future. But if he's not, then it's like, yes, it did take a hit. And what Russell Wilson did and said about him, it carried a little bit more weight. But for right now, I don't think his reputation has taken a hit.
Yes, his reputation has already taken a hit. Greg, to your point, not as a football coach, but as a new age communicator.
Oh.
Pete Carroll's reputation is that in spite of his age, he somehow is able to communicate. He believes in magic crystals. He probably burns sage. He's the Phil Jackson Zen master of the NFL in terms of being able to connect with his players. And all of that is going by the boards here because we haven't heard, keep in mind, we have not heard a word from the Seattle Seahawks about Russell Wilson's issues with the Seahawks. Think about when Aaron Rodgers first spoke out after they drafted Jordan Love. Matt LaFleur, what was it, the next day was out there saying, hey, Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere. GM, a couple days later, Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere. We haven't heard a word from Pete Carroll about this situation, and to Russell Wilson, or the reports are correct. If anybody is going to speak to this, it can't be John Schneider. It's got to be Pete Carroll. The fact that he hasn't said anything, and we're now, to your point, LeVar, now looking at him as a guy that couldn't get along. You can't get along with Russell Wilson. You got issues like a good soldier like Russell Wilson is having problems. There's no question I look at Pete Carroll different, and I already look at him different as a result of thinking about the fact that he and Russell Wilson don't get along. That does not fit with the Pete Carroll image and reputation that I've known this point when it comes to any player, much less somebody like Russell.
Well, speaking of good soldiers, coming up, did J.J. Watt choose to go to the Arizona Cardinals because of Kyler Murray? We'll discuss that next. You're watching Speak for Yourself, SFY.
Welcome back. J.J. Watt signed with the Cardinals, and now we're starting to learn some reasons why. Watt was teammates with Deshaun Watson, and today he talked about why his new QB, Kyler Murray, was a key in choosing Arizona. Take a listen.
I've always said in this league you have to have a quarterback to have a chance, and there's a young, extremely talented quarterback here who can do big things and is going from year 2 to year 3 and can take an even bigger jump to continue to grow and progress and be even better.
Murray tweeted this pic with his new teammate JJ and Karl Anthony Towns 6 years ago. My senior year of high school. Welcome to Arizona. Let's get it, JJ Watt. So, Greg, I have to ask, with all that considered, was this a smart move for JJ Watt?
This is, again, like the mixed signals that we're getting from JJ Watt. Like, I want to win. I want to have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl, but then I go to the Arizona Cardinals. I need to have a quarterback. You got to have a quarterback to win in this league. So you pick Kyler Murray over Aaron Rodgers, over Tom Brady, over Ben Roethlisberger, over who else? Patrick Mahomes. Like, there were so many other quarterbacks that are you saying that you wouldn't have been able to win with these guys? This is why, like, there are so many questions that if I could sit down with JJ right now, I would want to have answered. Because Kyler Murray, yes, he's an upcoming talent, but he's not better than the guys that I mentioned. And he doesn't have the resume of the guys that I just mentioned and alluded to. And so for me, I just don't know how this, again, makes sense when we're talking about quarterbacks. Now, we've all laid out the reasons why defensively it makes sense and all of that. But when you start talking about you needing a quarterback and you're going into a division where now you got Matthew Stafford that you're going to have to compete against. You got Russell Wilson, potentially, if he can stay in Seattle. You got Jimmy G and that Kyle Shanahan-led offense. Like, you arguably got the fourth best quarterback in that division, let alone the conference. So I'm just, again, more questions that draw some concern for me.
No, I think he's very competitive. I like Kyler Murray, and I like his trajectory, really, where he's at right now. We really don't know how good Kyler Murray can be. So I don't look at that as an egregious assertion by J.J. Watt. In fact, again, if you look at the type of defense and those playmakers, you got playmakers on every level of this defense. That's attractive, all right? And then you talk about you having, who is that? Mr. Hopkins on that offense. They make a couple different moves. This team can be a competitive team. And when you look at the NFC West, you named him being maybe the third best quarterback in that. Listen, I look at it this way. The Rams are the team to beat in the West. The 49ers, vulnerable. All right. When you look at Seattle, what's going on in Seattle right now? Vulnerable. So you're talking about, if I'm the Arizona Cardinals, I shore up my defense to deal with those issues going on with the Seattle Seahawks. I deal with those issues that I'm going to have to deal with offensively against the 49ers, and I prepare myself to be able to compete with that smash mouth, punch you in the mouth, hard nose, hardcore football that the Rams are going to bring your way. You really have to win 2 games, which is 4 games, and then really make it work against who you think is going to win that NFC West, which you got to believe is going to be the Rams. So to me, I like the odds that the Arizona Cardinals had before they added J.J. Watt. You add J.J. Watt to that defense, it may take the energy level, the professional level, a lot of competitive levels. It takes it to a whole nother place. This defense might be better just based upon the leadership that J.J. Watt brings to the table. And if you have that type of belief, man, this team went to the Super Bowl not that long ago, okay? And so when I look at this team and the way they're configured, sure, it's a much different team, but it's a team, it's an organization, and it's a city that knows what it's like to win. And that's very important. That's a very big key to this situation. So I don't have a problem with the decision that JJ made. I really don't. And I don't have a problem with him basing it off of Kyler Murray.
Arizona's been
you
doing
just
a
made
lot
a really
of
great
winning.
argument why
Rick.
this could possibly, potentially work out. But if we're talking about the quarterback, the quality of the quarterback being a primary criteria for the decision that J.J. Watt made in terms of where he went, this makes no sense.
Why?
Among the
Thank
teams that
you.
were
Why?
interested
Well,
in
why are
were
y'all saying
offering the
that?
same money. It makes no sense. He could have played. Wait, if it's quarterback criteria, you're telling me you're choosing Kyler Murray over Josh Allen?
That's
you're
what he's
choosing him
telling
over
you.
Aaron Rodgers?
That's what he's
I want
telling
you to
you.
choose Kyler Murray over Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee at this point in terms of what they represent as a quarterback. So to Greg's point, it's one more explanation of why he did what he did that doesn't fit with what he did. Like, you want to win. You had a lot of options. You went to Arizona. What? It's a quarterback. You picked Kyler Murray. What? I mean, it doesn't. And by the way, is he really comparing Kyler Murray with Deshaun Watson? Like, you know what? I left a really good quarterback, and I don't.
Why
I
not?
still
They
wanna
both
play
won
with
the
a really good
Heisman.
quarterback.
Why not? Why
Yeah,
I
not?
can't.
For me-
you're not
for
going to
me,
put
I'm
Kyler
with
Murray
you.
in the same camp as Deshaun Watson. Stop
Why
it.
not?
Rick,
Because he's
I'm
not
with
that
you.
good.
Rick,
Wow,
I'm completely
Rick.
with you. When we look at this quarterback situation, like, I get it. Kyler Murray, his trajectory, yeah, it's looking good, but he's still a young, developing quarterback. He hasn't proven anything in this league. And so if you're trying to win and you're trying to go to a team that has an opportunity to win from their quarterback position, you would think you would go to a sure thing, a quarterback that has been proven year in and year out. That's not the case. No one is saying that Kyler Murray is not a good quarterback and that he doesn't have the potential to be a really elite quarterback in this league, but he's not quite yet. He's not there yet.
He's a young quarterback, and J.J. Watt is an old pass rusher.
That's fine.
By the time Kyler Murray gets good, J.J. Watt's going to be gone.
I digress. Deshaun Watson didn't win the Heisman Trophy, but I'll tell you this, he might win the West. Coming up next, the 49ers, they have interest in other QBs. But should they feel confident with Jimmy G? We'll answer that next on Speak for Yourself.
Welcome back. Jimmy Garoppolo was only able to play in 6 games this season, bringing his total to 23 games missed due to injury since joining the Niners. This has sparked questions about his future in the Bay Area. Reports say the Niners are looking for insurance at QB and called the Panthers about trading for Teddy Bridgewater. So, have to ask, LeVar, should the 49ers be confident about having Jimmy G at QB this season?
They should be confident about having him as their QB, but I don't know how confident they can be about him having health as the QB. As a starting quarterback, they win 22-8. All right, that's Jimmy G's career with them. Without Jimmy G, they're 7-27. So I look at what Jimmy Garoppolo brings to the table, and I say this is an underappreciated, undervalued player. And becomes a much maligned player, comes under so much scrutiny as to what he isn't. You know, Jimmy Garoppolo is one of those players that everybody talks about everything he isn't. He's turned into one of those figures where I want to talk about every single thing and point out every single thing that Jimmy Garoppolo isn't. Well, one thing that he isn't is a loser. So I look at him and what he brings to the table. He brings a ton of value as a quarterback to this 49ers team. He brings a ton of value and credibility to Kyle Shanahan and his offensive scheme. It's just a matter of, as you mentioned, Rick, it's the insurances that you're looking for. If he gets hurt, what do you do? And that's the idea of it for me is that's where I have a tad bit of trepidation in terms of moving forward with Jimmy Garoppolo as my guy, because we all know the best ability is we all use it. It's cliche, is availability. But Jimmy Garoppolo as a winner on the field, there's no reason to not have buy-in to him.
Yeah, I'm with you. They're confident in Jimmy G simply because of what he comes with. his surroundings, who he's paired with when healthy. You got him paired with arguably one of the best play callers in all of football, Kyle Shanahan, and one of the best scheme coaches in our league. And then you look at the talent, Kendrick Bourne, a young Brandon Ayuk, and then Deebo Samuel, Kittles. He has so many weapons around him that when healthy, yes, he's going to produce. He's going to get you those wins. That doesn't mean, however, we're not trying to upgrade. And what that looks like when you talk to a guy like Kyle Shanahan and even John Lynch, they're constantly trying to improve in every single area. And when you look at the landscape of quarterbacks, can you get better at your position? Yes. Can you improve at your position? Do you have the elite quarterback at your position? And the answer for the 49ers is no. Can they win with him? Yeah, they've proven that. They've proven that they can win with Jimmy Garoppolo. So, yes, we're comfortable with what we have. We're confident with it because of the surrounding pieces and the supporting cast. But if I can upgrade it, I'm not going to allow my quarterback to be the reason why we can't reach the feat that we want.
Let me upgrade you. Let me upgrade you. Go ahead, Rick.
No. They're not feeling confident with Jimmy G at QB this season. And the fact that they're exploring the possibility of getting Teddy Bridgewater tells us that they're not confident about him at QB, because Teddy Bridgewater is making starter money. It's the low end of starter money, but he's making $21 million. And Jimmy G is making $27.5 million. That's an awful lot of cash to invest in your backup quarterback because of all the other talent that you ultimately have on that team that has made them as good as they've been with Jimmy G. I mean, let's compare the record. You were going from Jimmy G to some of the other quarterbacks that they've utilized. There's a significant drop off there. It's a matter of where they want to go. But if they're looking at a Bridgewater and they're willing to spend that kind of money to acquire a Bridgewater, not to mention the assets that you'd have to give up in order to get Bridgewater, then yes, they're not confident in him. And I live in the Bay Area. I happen to have some moles around, not just in the NBA, but in other sports.
Okay,
and
Rick.
One of my moles told me that the 49ers, for whatever they're saying, are not confident that Jimmy G is going to be the same on the other side of this injury that he's recovering from. It's a little more serious than has been let on. And there is that question. Whatever he was prior, can he get back to that? And Greg, as you mentioned, there was already some questions about, is he good enough? Is he an elite enough quarterback to get them to another Super Bowl win, which is the legacy of the 49ers. So I look at this Teddy Bridgewater exploration, and to me, it's a dead giveaway that what I've been hearing is accurate, and they have concerns about going forward with Jimmy G as their primary quarterback.
Well, to me, Rick, you're spot on. And I think, LeVar, you mentioned it, and Rick, you've alluded to it. It's the confidence that they don't have in whether or not Jimmy Garoppolo can remain healthy. Like, they just don't think that he can remain healthy. And so you bring in an insurance policy, because I'm going to be honest, I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is an upgrade at quarterback when you compare the two. Like, you're not just going to bring Teddy Bridgewater in and say, Jimmy, we don't need you. We got Teddy. No, not at all. But you don't want to, as you mentioned, Rick, you don't want to downgrade to a Nick Mullins, who can't make those throws down the field, who can't really do those things that even Jimmy Garoppolo can do. So if they're going to go through this injury carousel and this roller coaster with Jimmy Garoppolo, why not have an insurance policy like a Teddy Bridgewater or someone else that is serviceable, that if you do get injured or if we do see an injury, then we don't have that big of a drop-off and we can sustain the level of success.
Success, drop-offs. We're going to talk about this coming up next. Is Tyreek Hill the best wide receiver in the National Football League?
What?
I know you're a receiver, G.
Come on,
we're going to discuss that next. Coming up on Speak for Yourself. Welcome back. So Tyreek Hill, He's coming off of a season where he was named a first-team All-Pro and had a career high with 15 TD catches. Now, he was named the #1 wide receiver in the league by Bleacher Report. So, I'll go to our wide receiver extraordinaire first. Greg, is he the #1 receiver? Is he the best receiver in the league?
You know, Tyreek Hill is a good receiver. He's a really great receiver, but he is not the #1 receiver in the National Football League. That, my friends, is a position that is reserved for the one and only Davante Adams. And put some respect on this man's name. He didn't even play an entire season. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, man, he got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Well, Tyreek Hill has Patrick Mahomes. And when we think about what Davante Adams was able to do this year and for so many years leading up to this year, he was the Michael Thomas of 2 years ago. Everybody knew that Aaron Rodgers was looking for Davante Adams, and everybody outside of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who minimized him, but they did not stop him. They were able to get that work from Davante Adams. This is a guy that led the league. I got to look at my notes. He's the first player in NFL history with 100-plus catches and 18 receiving touchdowns in the National Football League season. Let that marinate. Like, he led the league with 18 touchdown receptions, 98.1 yards receiving yards. He had 7 of the 14 games that he played. As I mentioned, he didn't even play a full season of 100 yards in the game. Like, this guy is phenomenal. He can't be stopped off the line of scrimmage. I can go on and on. You can see I'm juiced, Rick.
Yeah, I got you, Greg. Look, Tyreek is really good. I'm not sure he's even in my top 5. He's a little bit of a one-trick pony in terms of beating you over the top. Nobody can do it better. But as a route runner, there are other Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Michael Thomas, Justin Jefferson. If I'm starting a team, I might even start with DK Metcalf if I'm starting from scratch. The reason it works with KC is because of Travis Kelce. I don't want to take any shine from Tyreek, but this is maybe one of the reasons why I'm not working for Bleacher Report anymore. This is ridiculous. Come on. Tyreek Hill is nice. He ain't that nice.
Let me tell you something. Tyreek Hill, they say speed kills. And that's why cheetahs are able to eat in the wild, right? So I'm just telling y'all right now, I'm taking Tyreek Hill just specifically because it is so difficult to deal with the speed that man brings to the table. I don't care who you got at quarterback.
I can respect that.
It's hard to cover when you're that fast, man. So listen, it's been a great show, y'all. I've had a great time with you, G&J, Slick Rick. It's been a wonderful thing. Y'all, make sure you stay tuned in. We'll be back tomorrow, but now we're going to Fox Bet Live. Start right now, people.